Okay, so in this video, we're going to discuss how do communities of various species have positive and negative influences on each other. So the context is that living things share this earth with us. We all live on earth together. How come some species work together while others don't? So the first word we're going to go over is community. Community is a group of different species all in one area. So for example, this is in Africa, right? So we see like there's lions, there's trees, there's zebras, birds, fish, seaweed, elephants, right? All of these are different species in a certain area, and that's a community. The next word that we're going to discuss is niche, right? So you might be like, how come zebras eat grass, right? But birds eat seeds and lions eat zebras, right? So the lions aren't mean. They don't want to kill the zebras. They're just forced to kill the zebras because inside of the lions, they have a gene that allows them to make an enzyme that allows them to break down the molecules inside of a zebra so that they can use those molecules to survive. Inside of zebras, how come zebras don't eat meat, right? So zebras have different genes because they're born with different genes, and that allows them to eat different things than lions. And so all of these genes affect the traits that each species has, and that affects their niche, right? So how come fish don't live on land? Well, the fish don't have the gene in order to make things that allow them to get oxygen from the air. They can only get oxygen while inside of the water. So all of these things that affect their lifestyle, that's called niche. So niche actually goes into two different forms, the fundamental niche and the realized niche. So fundamental niche is like all of the possible places and all of the possible things that the species can do. So for example, the zebras, they don't only have to live over here, the zebras could live over here, right? The zebras, they don't have to live in Africa. Zebras could possibly live in the United States as well, right? So how come the zebras don't come to the United States? Well, the zebras can't swim across the ocean. Zebras don't have boats, right? Zebras don't have planes. So their realized niche is that they're mostly living in Africa because they're not able to swim across the ocean and not able to fly across the ocean to go to other places. So fundamental niche is all of the different places and all of the different things the zebra could have done based on the traits that it has, right? But realized niche is what its actual lifestyle is due to the circumstances that's not inside of its control. For example, why don't the zebras live over here? Well, over here there's lions, right? So it would not be a good idea for the zebras to live over here. And if they tried to live over here, right, the lions would eat them. And so their realized niche is living on this side. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pause the video now. There's 3 quick questions for you to answer, and you can think about the things that we were just talked about. When you're ready, unpause the video and we'll go over it. Okay, so there's 3 quick questions. The first quick question is describe the realized niche of the zebra in the pictures. So the realized niche of the zebras in the pictures is that they can't live over here because there's lions, right? The zebras are also living closer to a water supply because they need water to do hydrolysis, right? To break down molecules. What else is part of the zebra's realized niche? Zebras are living in Africa because they cannot go over to the United States or to some other continent because they can't swim across the ocean or they can't fly over the ocean. Okay, second quick question. Why don't organisms usually reach their fundamental niche? What causes them to have a realized niche? And so 2 specific examples. So one example you can talk about is the abiotic factors. So there's water. Water is a limiting factor. Zebras are forced to live in an area where there is water, right? And so that's affecting their fundamental niche, right? They can't go too far from the water supply, otherwise they'll dehydrate, right? What else? Space, right? So maybe zebras are living in this area compared to somewhere else because there might be too many zebras or too little space somewhere else, right? And so that's going to affect its realized niche. Biotic factors. So what are some living things that could affect the zebra. Well, the zebra has to have food, so if there's no food in a certain area, then the zebra can't live there, right? And that would affect its realized niche, the real lifestyle that it has, right? And like we said before, predators, right? So the zebras, they could technically live here, but they can't because there's predators eating them. You could also say disease, right? Maybe a certain area has a lot of a certain pathogen and gets the zebra sick. Finally, the third quick question: how do organic molecules flow from the different species in the community? So I'm going to use sugar as an example, and I'll talk about three different species in this picture. So, for example, autotrophs make sugar, like trees and grass, right? So when autotrophs do photosynthesis to make sugar, right, the sugar is then passed on to the herbivore. And so who's the herbivore in this picture? Elephants, right? Zebras, right? And so when the zebra is eating the grass, the sugar goes over to the zebra. Then who gets the sugar afterwards? The lions, because the lions would eat the zebra. And so that's how um, different species can have an influence on each other, and non living things can also have an influence on the community as well. But at the end of the day, they have these lifestyles because of the DNA that they have. The DNA gave them those certain traits.